Autism and TMS. That is what we're talking about today. And I hope you are listening. I'm Dr. Virginia, and I'm a board certified psychiatrist, as well as a double board certified because I'm also certified as a lifestyle medicine physician. But I have children on the autism spectrum. I've used TMS for autism, and I will tell you why right now. So, first of all, we've already talked about autism, spent an entire month, the month of April, talking about it. But what is TMS? TMS is transcranial magnetic stimulation. TMS is not shock therapy. TMS is not an MRI, but it uses the exact same technology that's been around since Michael Faraday first looked at the electromagnetic ring that he created and started talking about electromagnetism. Fast forward to the 1980s when Dr. Anthony Tony Barker and his group of folks, of international folks, got together and started looking at ways that you could induce a magnetic pulse, just like an MRI takes a magnetic pulse that's sent to the body and then it transmits back an image, a static image, which is why we see MRI. Well, his group basically said, we're going to send a pulse in and see if that can be translated to electrical imagery, electrical stimulation. And what happens is send a pulse to the brain, a magnetic pulse, and saw finger move. So you could actually send a pulse to the brain, and through the nervous system pathway that goes from the brain to every other part of the body, you could see movement. That got translated into, well, can we send a pulse and actually kind of target and control not so much movement as much as the nerve talking to each other and growing nerves or changing the way that nerves function. That's TMS in a nutshell. You usually have to go into an office, you have to come into a clinic, like a clinic that we have in the Maryland site, or sites, I should say, come into our Maryland sites and sit in a chair, regular comfortable chair. You should see the wonderful device that was used by Serena Williams. That's a great way to look at it. And I've had people say, okay, I just kind of feel like I'm getting a massage, maybe a slight tapping on the brain, getting a massage. But when you're doing that, what you're actually doing is literally changing the brain. I love, and not a lot of people know this, but let life is founded on a scripture, Romans 12:1 and 2. And it says, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. I love the fact that the Bible will tell us what to do, but always not how to do it, right? The how of doing it varies, right? Physician, heal yourself. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. How do you renew your mind? You can renew your mind by praying. You can renew your mind by changing the way that you do things. You can renew your mind by reading scripture. You can renew your mind by reciting scripture. You can renew your mind by talking to other people, being in community, and having iron sharpen iron. You're exchanging ideas. All of those are ways to renew your mind. Did you know that TMS is a way to renew your mind? Had to count to five to see if that sank in. TMS is a way to renew your mind. Why and how? It causes neuroplasticity and it causes neurogenesis. What are those? Well, nerve. What's the brain? Giant set of nerves. Plasticity. What's plastic? Something that's malleable or changeable. Take a plastic bottle, drink the water out of it, and then you can crush the bottle. What happens? It becomes transformed. It changes the shape. Neuroplasticity, that's a transformation that happens. TMS causes that. It, instead of the pathway just automatically going like this, I can make the pathway go like this, or I can make the pathway go like this, or I can make the pathway go like this. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. TMS does that. Neurogenesis, what's that? What is that? Neuro, nerve. Genesis, book of Genesis, the creation. I can recreate nerves. We didn't know that 10, 15, 20 years ago, but we know that nerves can be regenerated. There are a lot of things that can regenerate nerves. Medicines can do it. Procedures can do it. TMS is one of those procedures that does it. It can cause the nerves to sprout and grow these little buds, and they start sprouting, and it's like little plants. That's why I like talking about mental health garden, because it reminds me so much of the brain. There's some wonderful Nissl stains. of the brain that you can look at, they actually do look like nerves growing. They are nerves growing, but they also look like trees growing and plants growing. So wonderful. That's why I loved medical school. It's also cool. But how do you utilize this for autism specifically? And ADHD and autism, this very first one I'm going to talk to you about, can be beneficial for ADHD and autism. Lots of studies on autism. I honestly don't have as many studies on ADHD, but the area that I'm going to talk to you about is the same area that we target with medications for ADHD. Theoretically, you can use TMS for ADHD. Theoretically, you can use it for attention and focus. And yes, there are some companies, private companies, that have a form of a TMS machine that you can pay out of pocket for, and you can use it for productivity, cognitive flexibility, focus and attention. Yes, it can be used for ADHD. Yes, it can be used for cognitive impairments. Yes, it can be used for dementia. Go look that up. But that's not what I'm talking about right in this moment, because what I am going to talk to you about, everything I'm going to say from this point on, is no longer theory. It's being used in action. We do it at our clinic, and people use it in multiple clinics all around the United States and all around the world, which is why I'm on a little mini mission to work with lots of organizations that are trying to make TMS and versions of TMS more available. We have 3 TMS machines just within our facility, but I want to make that available for other places. So I work with a variety of organizations that is part of their goal. I have conversations with people all the time. I've worked with a group of folks that are in the UK, a group of folks that are in Portugal, Lisbon, and now in New Zealand. And I get to see what they're doing in each of these different areas. Yes, the majority of folks are in the UK and the United States, but there are just as many countries that are grasping onto this, places in all throughout Asia, Japan, China. That's where some of the devices that I've seen, that once you start getting treatment in the office, I've said it before, I'll say it again, you can right there, like the creme de la creme devices, they're actually coming out of Asia and Germany. The ones that I'm seeing, okay, there might be ones that I don't know anything about. I don't know it all, guys. This is why you go back and you read and you do your own due diligence. Do like the Bereans did. When Paul and the other disciples came and taught them information, the Bereans said they went and studied the scriptures themselves to see if what they were saying was true. This is what you need to do. You need to go and study yourself and make sure the information that I'm sharing is true and legit, and not just me pulling something out of the air. This is based on wonderful research that you can see from the NIH. When I say NIH, I mean the old NIH, not necessarily what's going on right now. At the timing, the filming of this is in 2026. But the original NIH, variety of NIHs across the world that are plugged into data that's coming out of a variety of institutions, again, all throughout the world. So you go and look these things up. I'm going to teach you some things about the brain right now. I'm trying to keep this under 10 minutes. Dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Dorsal, lateral, the prefrontal cortex. That's right here. This area right here, first frontal lobe of the brain. Frontal lobe of the brain. That's one area. That's the area that we get our executive functioning, higher order functioning. This is great to stimulate for focus, attention, and cognitive flexibility. Inflexible means rigid. I want to do it this way and only this way, and you can't make me budge. Mom, dad, before we can leave the house, I have to arrange these cars in this way, and we can't leave until I arrange the cars. Having that problem, behavioral discontrol, behavioral dysregulation, you target the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Yes, there are autism protocols, but where you target is so important. I'm saying this here again. I've done this in podcasts. I've shared this with other providers. I've shared this with psychiatrists. I've shared this with other people that utilize TMS. Please hear me on this. If you have autism or you have a child with autism, and aggression or dysregulation is a huge, behavioral discontrol is huge, you want to target here first. Not saying this is not the only. This is where you want it. And usually it's the right that we start with. But if you don't see good benefit, you can go to the left. It's going to be longer than 10 minutes. Sorry about that, guys. But these next ones, the medial prefrontal cortex, the middle prefrontal, you're still towards the front. This is the target, the area that we usually want to go with for OCD. a person that's got social difficulties with rigidity, difficulties with social interactions to help them feel more natural. Part of that, I want you to think about this for two reasons. One, socialization is behavioral, right? It can be taught, and it can be mimicked, learned behavior. I want you to think about behavior as something that you do with your body, right? Anything a dead person can't do. With that, if we're targeting behavior, social behavior especially, remember this for two reasons. One, motor strip right here, right? Behavior, movement. This is one of the ways I remember it, hoping it's going to help you as well. We learn by memory stacking. What you already know, we just add to that. So if a person is really struggling from a socialization perspective, remember that, motor behavior, but also remember that this area is where we target for OCD. Remember what I said about that? I talked about OCD the other day. With OCD, if a person is struggling with OCD, they're having the circuitry, that Papez's circuit is stuck in a loop. We want to break the circuit. And instead of having it go the same way all the time, we want to generate new pathways. I don't want it to keep going like this. I want it to go the other way. I'm targeting Papez's circuit. I'm targeting the medial prefrontal cortex for the person that really struggles with social cognition, social situations, and also for the person that has a lot of OCD type tendencies, the rigidity and the difficulties. You can start with the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, but the medial prefrontal cortex is a second target that you can utilize. If a person also struggles to make connections, when I've seen some wonderful cartoon imageries of the brain, and you can almost see where there's like the autism brain, you can see where there's circuitry that kind of goes, but it doesn't seem to connect. This little area will kind of have conversations over here, and this little area is having conversations over here, but you don't see the inroads, you don't see the connections, right? So because of that, you want to think about something called the temporal parietal junction. Temporal, the temporal area, your temples that are massaged, and oh, that feels so good. Then the parietal area before you get to the occipital lobe, where you've got the visual area. So if you're talking about temporal parietal in this area right here, this is an area, actually, interestingly enough, if you're using a Neurostar device, one of the areas that it will target and track is right here in that temporal parietal area. Very interesting. It's not as front forward as the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is a target that's often used if you're looking at a MagVenture or MagStem. But that temporal parietal junction, I hope you guys are catching this, something called theory of mind, the ability to understand what I'm understanding, the ability to think about what I'm thinking about, the ability to understand another person's perspectives and emotions, to break out of the auto of the self, right? And understand what someone else might be going through. That's that temporal parietal junction, okay? The temporal parietal area. That is another target. As I've talked a bit about this, I'm kind of starting you through where I would start for a person with autism and then move forward. But I'm also talking to you about, I don't want to say this is consistent with levels, but say suppose I was thinking that a person that has very limited speech is struggling just with behavioral discontrol. I'm starting here. But then let's say the person has more speech and is struggling in social situations to kind of put things all together. Then I've moved here. Now we're making that third layer jump to, I'm trying to understand how to put all these things together, not how to regulate myself, but then also how to deal with things socially. Hi, how are you? Thank you, goodbye. Hi, my name is, thank you, goodbye. I want such and such, please. I'm trying to navigate this social situation to explain to you how I think and what I feel. And if you've got autism or you've got a child with autism, everything I just said made sense. For the rest of you, sorry, you might have missed that, went over your head. But if you know, you know. Now I'm trying to get to that third level, which is I'm trying to navigate higher functioning. I'm trying to navigate my place in this world, my purpose in this world. When I've got folks on the autism spectrum who usually are level 1, right? They've got the ability to regulate themselves. They kind of know their place in society and can have basic conversations and navigate things. But now I'm trying to figure out my place in the world, my purpose in the world. Why was I made this way? What are things going on in my life? Why is my life the way that it is right now? I'm navigating that higher order level. Again, I'm probably a person with level 1 autism, and I'm trying to navigate all those things, especially my patients who also have depression and suicidal ideation because they don't understand why they're not fitting in this world the way that they are. Now we're down to that neurodiversity conversation. That's the target, guys. That last one that I just mentioned. That's the target. I don't go there very often. I will tell you, very honest, unless I'm using the NeuroStar device, that's not an area that I'm usually to target very, very often with the Brains Way or with the MagStim or MagVenture. I'm just being honest with you. Um, and I don't have nearly as many patients with autism that we get there. Usually, the patients I'm seeing are children, younger folks, young adults, folks that have a lot of other co-occurring illnesses, and depression is a big, big, big one, but it's not necessarily the only thing. We're here, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and then that medial prefrontal. But for that person that's having those existential, why am I here? What's my purpose? And we're sometimes on the cusp of suicidality because I don't get it. Why am I in this world? It just not making sense to me. Then we're going for that temporal parietal junction, and we're hitting back here, and we're getting into those deeper areas of the brain. All of them are going to hit the deep areas of the brain, but I'm really trying to help the person navigate that. And that's also when we got to pair therapy. All of these, yes, there may be some forms of therapy, but if we're going for temporal parietal junction, we're really trying to get that of understanding my place in this world. Those portions, for me, that's when the person also needs to be savvy enough that they're able to do some very good therapy with someone that they trust. Okay. Went over my 10 minutes, but I stayed under 20. So I hope this has been really helpful for you. Love talking about this. Could talk about this all day long. Really, I could. I'm going to try to distill it down to a 2 to 3 minute video. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, you guys, I hope you have a very blessed day on purpose. And LinkedIn, I didn't forget about you. Didn't forget about you. I came on earlier than I normally would. So what I'm going to do for you, LinkedIn folks, is I'll be coming in to do my 2 to 3 minute quick special for you guys at the time that I said that I was going to. And then what I will do is I will make sure that we give you a good distilled version for a YouTube short or reel so that everybody can get everything I just said in a very short, bite-sized bit of information. And obviously, this is where you come when you want to get the fullness thereof. Okay? Guys, have a very blessed day on purpose. Take care.